Hello, welcome back to Upamiles. In this lesson, I am going to make you learn about the indirect objects or the second type of objects. In the previous lesson of the grammar, we have already studied about the direct objects. So let us have a review of the direct objects. We studied that direct objects are the names of any persons or any place or anything, or they are the pronouns, or they are any ideas upon which the action of the verb is performed. So let us take some examples to memorize the topic of the direct objects. I surf the internet daily. So I is a subject here, surf is a verb here. I surf what? I surf the internet. It is a direct object because the action of surf, it is being directly performed on the internet. My mother called me. My mother called who? My mother called me. It is your pronoun objective case, so it is your direct object. The message reached everyone. The message reached to who? The message reached everyone, so it is your direct object. I am delivering an English lecture. I am delivering what? The action of delivering is being performed on English lecture, so it is your direct object. Usually direct objects answer the questions of who and whom and to who, but today I am going to discuss about the indirect objects, which are very important, and they have been introduced in the English grammar to make the sentences more meaningful and interesting. So before discussing the standard definition of indirect objects, let us have a look at this example to understand the concept profoundly. I am giving this marker. Now, the very first question that comes to everybody's mind is, I am giving this marker to whom? So, I am giving this marker to whom. I is a subject here. I am giving present continuous verb here, and the action of giving is being performed on this marker. It is your direct object. Now I am placing a word here. I am giving this marker to you. Now guys, you are able to understand the whole meaning of the entire sentence means I am giving this marker to you. So this is the concept that direct object is a person or an animal that receives a direct object. The receiver, the beneficiary, is the name of any person or any animal who is receiving the direct object. It is your indirect object. So, what is a standard rule in the grammar? How to add the indirect objects in your sentences? Actually, this rule works as follows. First of all, we place a subject at the front of the sentence, which is followed by a verb. After that, it is your indirect object. Now, the very first question that is coming to your mind is, in the example, I have placed the indirect object after the direct object. That is a prepositional object. This is the alternative case that you can place the indirect object at the end of the sentence or after the direct object, but it is more effective to add it first before the direct object in your sentences. The verb works as the verb goes to the direct object first. After that, it switches to the indirect object. So, indirect object receives the direct object. Next example, Liza baked her dog a cake. So, I am following the standard rule here. You can also write this example like, I am giving you this marker. I am giving you this marker. That would not be wrong because it's not a rocket science tool. There are no hard and not any hard and fast rules how to add indirect objects in the sentence, but preference is given to this rule. Lisa baked her dog a cake. Lisa baked what? The action of baking was performed on a cake. It is your direct object. And for what? To whom it was baked? For her dog, it is your indirect object. So guys, Indirect objects usually answers the questions to and for what and to and for whom, whereas the direct objects answers the questions of who, whom, and to whom. This is the basic difference. Next good example. Tom lent his friend $50. Tom is a subject because he lent. Tom lent what? Tom lent $50, direct object. Following this rule, direct object. And who received it? Who was the receiver? Who was the receiver? And Tom lent what? So, in order to identify the indirect objects in your sentences, you first have to identify the direct objects. Tom lent what? Tom lent what? Tom lent $50. Who got it? Who was the receiver? Who was the beneficiary? His friend. It is your indirect object. Indirect object, direct object. My father gifted me a digital watch. My father is a subject here because he performed his action. Gifted is your past participle verb. My father gifted what? Direct object, a digital watch. And the action is switching to me because I received it. So it is indirect object. Pronoun case, objective case. And first of all, if you write I here, my father gifted I, that would be wrong because it is the pronoun's objective case. That becomes me from I. Subjective case and objective case. So guys, the very first thing to identify the indirect objects in your sentences is that in order to add the indirect objects in your sentences, you must have the direct objects in the sentences because an indirect objects always relies on the direct object. If I write like this, I am giving this marker. Then I am giving this marker. I am giving this marker to you. So indirect objects is totally depends on this marker. If it gets absent from your sentence, then the sentence would be wrong. So this is a not an indirect object always relies on direct objects. Because guys, indirect objects are the ones that receive the direct objects, and without direct objects, indirect objects will receive nothing that will make your sentence inaccurate grammatically. So I hope you have clearly understood this concept of indirect objects, and now I am going to display you a list of examples that will be able to in which you will be able to identify the direct objects and indirect objects very carefully. So be with me.
So guys, these are the example sentences that we are going to use in order to identify the direct as well as indirect objects in the sentences. The very first is, I purchased my daughter new clothes. So I is the subject here because it is performing the action of the purchased. It is a past participle, purchased verb. I purchased what? Because the action of purchased was performed on new clothes, so it is your direct object. And for whom I purchased new clothes? For my daughter, for sure, it is your indirect object. So direct object is switching to the indirect object. Verb to the direct object, then it is moving to the indirect object. Next, she studied Shakespeare for her exam last Saturday. She studied what? The action of studied was performed on Shakespeare, so it is your direct object and it is the object of preposition. She studied, She studied what? She studied Shakespeare. And for what she studied Shakespeare? For what? For what purpose she studied Shakespeare? For her exam. So it is your indirect object. Rahul served the guest the coffee. Rahul served what? The action of served was performed on the coffee. It is your direct object. And for whom he served coffee? The guest. So it is your indirect object. Please make her a new dress. Please make her a new dress. It is your verb make. Action of make will be performed on the dress. New dress. It is direct object. And for whom? To whom? For whom? Her. Objective case. It is your indirect object. I never buy her flowers. She is allergic to them. It is a negative sentence and objects always often come with negative sentences. I never buy her what? The action of never buying is being performed on flowers, direct object. And for whom I never buy the flowers, her, indirect object. It is just your helping verb. She is allergic to them. The next sentence, the postman delivered Liza her parcel. Postman is a subject here. Delivered is a verb here. And the postman delivered what? Her parcel. And who received it? Liza. It is your indirect object because indirect object is a receiver of the direct object. Tom passed her brother the ball. Tom passed what? Passed. The action of passing is being performed on the ball. It is a direct object. And to whom it was passed? Her brother. His brother. So it is your indirect object. She always gives the class interesting lectures like I do. She always delivers the class interesting lectures. She always gives what? Interesting lectures, direct object. To whom she gives interesting lectures? Oftenly the class, indirect object. It can be her class also. Doing practice makes you a perfect person. Practice makes you what? A perfect person, direct object. A perfect person. Who becomes a perfect person after doing practice? Who is the beneficiary? You, indirect object. Have you returned her the jacket? This is the interrogative sentence of the present perfect tense. And have you returned her the jacket? Have you returned what? The action of return was performed on jacket, direct object. And to whom? Her, indirect object. So guys, this was all about today's session, and I hope you have clearly understood the concept of indirect objects as well as direct objects. And if you have not subscribed my channel yet, please subscribe and share my channel with your near and dear ones in order to be with me to learn more and more interesting videos about basic grammar and IELTS. Thank you so much.